take no more. I keep on running back to you. See, my days are cold without you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the coaching side. Joining me is the always awesome Rustin. Thank you so much for joining me, my man. This is episode number 1 of hopefully many. How are you, man? How are you feeling?
Good.
Good? Woke up recently,
Good.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple hours.
It's the gamer life, huh? So,
It's horrible.
first off, I was hoping you could give a little introduction to yourself. Of course, this is a podcast dedicated to coaching talk, CS talk. Because as we both agreed, coaches really don't get as much attention as I think they should. So if you want to give a little intro to yourself, what's up? Tell the people the good.
So, I'm Rustin. I used to play on the Video Pro roster when they first made MDL, and then I switched over to coaching, and I'm just a coach. Downgraded.
Downgraded. You think that's a downgrade?
To everyone else's perception, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we should start there, right? What were
Sure.
the main factors for you individually wanting to transition from, I guess, obviously you love playing, you love Counter-Strike, that was kind of the main goal, to a coaching role? Was it more of a skill thing, or was it more of a I want to support your friends?
It was a couple of things. I think mainly the skill thing. I definitely didn't dedicate a lot of my time that I should have to be like a top tier MDL player. I was pretty mid tier always, never really shined. So I think everyone started realizing it, and then I realized it, and I was like, okay, I guess I could just step down now. And then we talked about me coaching. I liked the idea. I loved everybody on the roster, and I just wanted to help still. So it was either sixth or coach. So
Okay.
I just started coaching.
Yeah. Now, was that transition weird for you at all? Because of course, as a player, you're used to always having that live input during games and always having making impact live round. Was it weird for you to kind of like? Because I personally, for me, because I guess I never played like high tier, right? But even just from watching a team play and trying to help them to playing yourself, the role is completely different.
It's a huge change. I was a lurker that only talked and only gave input, like strictly input as a lurker. And going from someone who just doesn't talk at all, like you're only maybe giving mid-round calls or helping with in scrims you can help with comms, but like that's it. And it's really weird. You have to take like an IGL kind of stamp on communication. It was a really super weird transition to me.
Yeah, because now, like, I guess scrims is one of the places, because official matches you can't do this, and I guess we'll get
Yeah.
to that, because I had the pleasure of meeting you. The first time was WSG America. I think that was
Yep.
the first time I met you and the boys. Floppy's just as awkward in person as he is online, so nothing really changed there. But, I mean, now you can't talk mid-round, which kind of is a downgrade as a coach, right? That's been a thing for a while now. You've seen some teams fall apart because of it.
Yeah.
Now, in practice, this is what I do, and I'm going to kind of compare and contrast because obviously I'm coaching a advanced team, which is a step below MDL. Unfortunately, it's not a move-up season for you guys this year, which that kind of sucks. We'll get to the past season. But in practice, my main premise, and this was actually given to me by Valence, he said, it sucks to not be able to talk to the whole team, especially when you're online, because you press your push-talk button, talk to everyone, it can mess the round up. I've set up individual buttons for individual players to whisper. And I don't know if you've gone down a similar path. Yeah, see, this is some inside information.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No, I've completely stepped back talk in scripts other than helping with comms.
Okay.
Like that's it. Anything that's really important that needs to be said, I usually wait until after the script.
Okay.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, so I have just pretty much just binds on my number pad. So right now I have stickers because I couldn't memorize my buy binds. So like my nade button, which is I think number 1 on my numpad, is to whisper. So I did it top down on my we use TeamSpeak. I don't know what you use.
Yeah.
So basically the way TeamSpeak always works is it always keeps the same order of players. I think it's based on name or something. So the same order always, and then you just set up a whisper list. So my 1 will whisper that player directly. Because the game is still kind of broken, even though they fixed Coach Dead Talk. So that's how I talk to them dead or live time. If they, for example, not throwing a nade set, and I'm like, P.S. You have nades. Like, it just a little. I don't know if it. Now, some players find it annoying. I don't know if it'll apply to you guys and higher levels, but
I think every team's different.
yeah,
Players different. Some are okay with this. Some, so I
yeah.
mean, my team would be okay.
So I guess let's talk about your team, right? Because you guys had an interesting like last few months. I think they've probably been the busiest months for you guys, like the last 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And the most interesting to me, really, because if you look at your past events, you've tried the. We'll start with the minor qualifiers because you tried. Was it 3 or 4 different times for that?
Yeah, I think it was 3.
Yeah, and every time you would get there, and it would be kind of like that 5th to 8th spot.
Yeah, there's something about qualifiers that either I think this roster is okay with qualifiers. I think we're consistently beating worse teams, but like the old set of old rosters always lose to a random main team in the opens. It was just really weird. I don't know what was wrong with us.
I don't know. The thing about qualifiers to me is like, especially after you get that LAN experience, right? Where as a CT you can actually hold an angle, and then you jump
Yeah.
onto online CS where holding angles as a CT is, I don't even bother. Like I don't. It's hard. Like I think that transition to being good online to LAN is the gap is actually bigger than most people think.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
especially when you're thinking about an advanced team that doesn't make lands. Like, how are they supposed to be good on land?
Mm-hmm.
What did you expect? The same with us. Like most of the people on this current roster, this is like all the lands that they played were last year.
Oh really?
They just started playing lands. Robbie, Punalone, and me. I'm including myself because our first land was Frag, and it was like, well, what did you expect? This was our first lands.
Yeah, it's crazy how different a game can be from online to LAN. And I'm trying to find a fair comparison, but I don't think there's any game that has that big of a gap. Like I'm talking like pure skill gap too from LAN to online. Like
yeah.
it's crazy.
I mean, the playstyle completely changes. I remember my first LAN match. I was playing the Moose Stack at Frag on Train, and they were just doing like I was just realizing things that never happened online. They were happening on LAN in the match. I was like, "Holy crap! This works! You can do that!" And like, there's just a huge difference. The game completely changes.
Yeah, I guess you'll never really people won't really understand it until they actually go and do
Yeah.
that, I guess. So those of course qualifiers are always hard because especially the minor qualifier, I think where they were a 2-day thing each event. So not
Yeah.
only do you have to put off, like obviously though scrim time is technically your match time, but you're playing teams you don't know, teams who really, until you hit advance and MDL, really don't care. That again, and what I mean by that is they care, they want to win, but they don't take the value of their life in every round. Like there's
No, they have no expectation.
yeah,
Right?
so they just
It's
jump
just
in
fun.
and do whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I personally I feel like my team, and I don't know if yours would fall into this bracket. I feel like most teams would. You do better against teams that are actually structured and have players that think or overthink in comparison to teams that just run. Like they don't stop. They constantly fight. You know what I mean? Like they throw one
Yeah.
smoke and they call it an execute. Like that's what the bane of qualifiers is, and that's why I wish there was a different way to go about them. But I guess when you start classifying qualifiers, then you run into some trouble. So I don't know if there's a solution for it.
Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe an invite have an invite only closed and then have a open that goes into a second closed or something like
Mhm.
that. I'm not sure. But yeah, the teams that have no fear are the scariest for sure. They
Yeah.
have good individual aim. Obviously, if you have an open team that have no fear, then it's not a problem. But you're touching those puggy main advanced teams. Those get a little scary if they're having an on day.
hmm So just taking a look at the list, obviously you said Frag was your first LAN event,
Mhm.
and that was you playing, of course, right?
That was me playing, but
Yeah.
also Punalone's first, and then the old roster's first LAN.
Okay, so now with your new roster, Ben wasn't at he wasn't at WSG, was he? That was still
No.
ZNF.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was technically, quote unquote, the first like Vireo Pro full lineup land with you in attendance.
Yep.
Now, how did that go as a team? Because you guys did really well, right? Obviously, I mean, you made it to the semis. I mean, it kind of unlucky with who you had to play. I think a little bit of unluck came into that.
Yeah, if you want, yeah, it was definitely unlucky that we had to play against Swole, but it was just a really bad event. ZNF got sick the first day, had food poisoning, and he didn't show up for practice. I had so much to go over on Swole. It was my first LAN event where I actually got to do coach stuff.
Okay.
And couldn't go over all any of that because he was sick. He got there 30 minutes before we had to go live.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, well, we're going in dry. Whoever plays better wins, which sucked. Obviously, Swole played way better.
Yeah. So obviously, I guess every player has a little bit of this naturally in them, is kind of the mentality of like figuring out patterns, right? So the idea of CS is the more you play high tier teams, you figure out their patterns, right? You're like, okay, when I smoke them into window, majority of the time, I'll pick a random player. Let's say Guardian gets smoked into window Mirage. He 9 times out of 10 or whatever the percentage is, majority of the time leans towards going jungle. So players naturally pick up on these habits. As you as a coach, was it hard to transition, like keeping that in the back of your mind, not really sharing it, to like accessing that information, watching? You probably watch a dumb amount of demos now. Like that's probably a decent amount of your taking notes and sharing it. But I guess my question is, do you demo watch with the team? Do you do your own grinding? Do you find a hybrid of analysts and coaching? How do you balance your day?
Well, with having been coming into the new roster and kind of having to restructure and do more strats and stuff like that, it's mainly for the team right now. But whenever like a LAN event comes around or something, it's like tendency watching, always.
Yep.
You're just studying the other team. But like when you're preseason and you're just working on the team, for me personally, it's just mainly just watching demos for them.
Okay. See, now I'm looking at MDL, and it's unfortunate that's not a move up season. That kind of sucks. So I guess it's more of a practice, win MDL, get the money type of season.
Yeah, and like focus on other lands
Yeah.
and stuff.
Is there anyone in MDL? I mean, to be honest, MDL's kind of scary this season. Like, I'm looking at your list right now. Your first game is Space Station. Then you move to Team 1, and then Intact. Like, that's a scary way to start the season.
Actually,
Unless
I disagree.
You disagree, yeah.
I think this season is easier than last.
Okay. All right. You're not scared of the new dogs on the street, the Intact boys?
No,
No?
not at all.
Well, is there
Not at all.
anyone in MDL that you'd be? I mean, I guess Bravado's always good,
Always good.
and then you have Mythic, who are like one-offs. Luminosity, of course, are going to be up there. Furia,
Terrifying.
yeah, they, dude. I don't think people would understand. Like, they look at Luminosity, probably think they're tier 2. These guys are scary. Like, I don't think.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
They're the bane of online CS. I can already tell that that right now they are terrifying.
Mhm.
I think Singularity's new roster probably pretty good.
Mhm.
I have a little insight to how that's going, but I think they'll finalize on a pretty good roster.
Okay. Someone just
That's
asked in
it.
chat, what's a move-up season? A move-up season is where MDL says, okay, this season, I think it's 2 teams are going to move up to Pro League. And then
Yep.
bottom 2 are coming out of Pro League to play MDL. And I think they transition that back and forth, so it's like on-off.
Except for this year.
Yeah, I think this year they did 2 back-to-back.
They did 2 practices, or they did it's supposed to go 2 or 3 move up seasons and then an off season.
Okay.
But last year they had a off season, and then last season was a move up season, and then this season's a practice season, and it's
Yeah.
I don't know, they're trying to do something with Pro League, have a lineup or something.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess looking at your list, obviously you guys, and I would put you in this bracket as well, as probably top 5 MDL team this season. I mean,
Yeah,
you
I'd say that.
have 46-2 who always somehow stay in because they're
Unbelievable.
gunning. I don't know how
Unbelievable.
they've been in what for 4 seasons now.
Yes, congrats to them. I don't know how, how, but they're nuts, I guess.
Yeah, they're just they start off like you expect, and then they get those last 3 wins. They're like, oh well, we did see you next season.
Pretty sure it's 2-46, but okay.
And then you have some new ones. Intact, who destroyed Advanced. I don't know if they went undefeated or close to it. They kind of put in work, but I guess, yeah, they 16-0'd main, and then they went 14-2 in Advanced. So
They are a good team, by the way.
yeah, no, for
I
sure.
wasn't trying to put them down. They're probably top 10,
Yeah,
so it's reasonable.
they should not get relegated. I
They sh-
wouldn't put them in that bracket.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if it did. The fundamentals, they're also from Advanced, right?
Yep. Fundamentals, I believe they've moved up. So, I mean, you have obviously the Mythic Reborns, kind of like gatekeepers at this point.
Yeah. Furia.
Furia, yeah. Singularity is an interesting one to me, too, with the recent changes. And I guess you guys have had a recent change, too, right? Recently bringing on Ben last month.
Yep.
ZNF, did he ever release the motives behind him wanting to just kind of take a step back?
There was a couple Twitter scuffles,
Okay.
but you can go find them.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah, no.
I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
get bad at anyone's bad side.
Yeah, no. If you, I guess you want to know, it's all on the tweeters. But how's the Ben transition been? Because to me, Ben is just a fundamentally sound player that's been waiting for a place that can just take advantage of his skills.
Yeah, he's a great IGL. I mean, Stellar was our IGL last season, and he isn't like the IGL kind of person. He did it more or less out of necessity because we cut our IGL.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was IGLing when I filled in at the MDL LAN, because we were already set on Ben to come in, and he was like, "No, I'm done IGLing. You can do it." I was like, "Oh God, okay, I guess I can." But yeah, it makes a huge difference where your star players like our floppies and our Ponalones can just go free. Like Ben just goes, go here, and it's like they're getting 3Ks and 4Ks. They know exactly what they're doing. There's no question. They can just frag. It's amazing.
So when you first transitioned to coach, did you see issues you didn't see as a player role? Like, did you start to pick up more on communication issues? Was there?
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
Especially even practice. I don't know if you want to. This can go into the first time joining a team as a coach. Is like the practice is literally the most important thing. How well you're doing in practice, what you're talking about in practice, is it useful? Like that was the biggest thing at the start, and it changed the team like the better, like immediately. Just how we did practice.
Okay. How did you implement a system? Did you work as a team to like be like, yeah, practice? Because obviously, if practice is pointless or you're just going through the motions without having any meat on the bones, you're not going to get anywhere. All right. So what were the big fundamental change that you think you guys had to make practice actually worthwhile, in a sense?
So, like usually people, and this happened for us a while, where server stuff was really boring. And then I saw a video on coaching with I think it was Complexity's coach. Why do I always forget his name? Rambo. Yeah, he was talking about how they do their server stuff and what goes on, and I just completely jacked everything they did. Where you start off with server stuff and you talk about all the important things, such as a strat you've been doing for a while. Let's revise that strat. Let's completely break down that strat. Let's talk about what works and what doesn't, and let's just spend a day or an hour on just our strats. Just completely throw some out. Let's change them. You go into practice. You try all those things you just changed. It's just a huge difference, other than just like, oh, let's practice nades. No, let's retake.
Yeah, I think that's a big change, because the nice thing is that when you break down a strat as well, you find strats in a strat.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because there's steps you have to go through to set up a strat. People think you can call a strat out of spawn. Well, okay, you can do that maybe in pugs, but when it comes down to brass tacks, you say, well, we need to get this control before we can do this. And so there's
Mhm.
steps into it. So when you actually have time to actually break down a strat, look at the structure behind it, it's super interesting because there's some crazy stuff you do in Counter Strike, and then there's some basic stuff that happens every round that you don't really realize. Like
Yeah.
leaving spawn and getting map control can be more difficult than it seems.
Oh, you could spend 2 or 3 hours on a default if you
Hmm.
wanted to, just talking about potential nades. Where are they landing? Where are they going? What is our objective? Like, there's just so many things you can talk about. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so I won't touch directly upon your obviously your strats because those are close and near and dear to your heart. I'm assuming you have a
Mhm.
massive Google Drive like most teams.
Be surprised.
A dumb amount of things in that. I know our IGL spammers put dumb amounts of time into our Google Drive. Every map, tons of videos. So, how has it been with becoming a coach and getting your voice heard? Can sometimes be difficult. I mean, at least for me, and I know some other coaches. I think maybe Valens is a good example. Someone who hasn't played in a while or has never really played at that high of a level.
Hmm.
Um, or some other coaches who maybe haven't played since 1.6. I guess Yanko can be a perfect example. I guess I'm not too sure how his transition was from being analyst to jumping onto the coaching side of things, getting your voice heard. Getting a point across to a player, right? Because players have egos.
Yep.
They completely do. And breaking that shell and getting them on a personal level can be very difficult because they always think you're not always think, but sometimes they think you're gunning for them or you're harping on them. How did you
Or they
get around
you're
that?
worse.
Yeah, or that. So how was
They just don't
getting
respect it.
yeah, how did you okay, that's a good point. How did you get the respect? I guess cuz you had that playing experience and you liked the dudes. Was it hard for you to get the respect and kind of get your input in?
So when I first transitioned to coach, everyone on my team knew how I played. I was a decent player. They respected my opinion. And when we changed the roster completely, that's when I found that issue of not being able to really feel comfortable giving my opinion on a new player like Floppy, who's extremely talented, way better player than I ever was. It's really hard for me, even now. It's a barrier I'm still trying to break, where I can go, hey, I think you should have done this instead of like giving the criticism coaches need to give.
Mhm.
It's like it's kind of scary when you have someone who's clearly better than I am, and I'm trying to criticize or critique his play. It's kind of intimidating. You don't want to come off as a dick, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I've found difficult to a sense, right? Cuz the way some players think is the move I made was the right play in that situation.
They can justify it in their head.
Yeah, exactly. And they always die either the 2 points I've seen players die. Now this isn't for every player, but the 2 points players always bring up when they die is, "Oh, he did something dumb, emo, insert whatever word you want here.
Yeah.
It's their fault." Or two, "I had no choice." And then I guess the
Mm.
best system I had to break it down to them was, okay, let's look at all your options here, right? You had X map control, this much time on the clock, you still had this. And just the nice thing about being a coach and seeing every POV and having a map open is hindsight. And I guess that you're right. The way to like break that down to a player can be difficult because he's like, well, you're not playing. And it's like, oh, well, shit, you know?
Yeah. You didn't know what I knew at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that footstep. It's like, well,
Yeah, maybe.
yeah. So I don't know. It's an interesting talking point because I'm curious to like make my rounds through other coaches to see like their way of thinking and how they implement it. Because there's some coaches who
Hmm.
would classify themselves more as analysts,
Yeah.
and there's some coaches who class themselves more of like not a life coach, but more of like a guidance coach who doesn't tread too heavily on the feet of the IGL.
Mhm.
I don't know. Where would you classify yourself as right now? And obviously, you're still learning as a coach. What's your end goal? I guess.
I want to be a critical coach.
Okay.
I want to be able to pick out any problems we have and try to fix them myself. I think coaches should, I think you probably know about this. They have to mold into their team. They can't really come in being this kind of coach and expect it to work for that team. You have to like mold around what the team needs.
Hmm.
And I think I need to be more of a tactician. This current roster,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably about it. Most of my players are super hyper aware, so when they make a mistake, they usually call it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which helps me drastically. I don't have to feel
Yeah.
like
You don't have to
I'm
do the
nitpicking.
MCE way. Do you ever hear what
Yeah,
MCE
yeah.
does?
Oh, yes,
Hiko,
unfortunately.
Vice, explain. It's like, oh, well, here we go. It's an interesting way of coaching. I've implemented that like twice in certain situations, but see that way is like the tilting way.
Yeah, especially if you have like a young player or something.
Yeah.
It's like they're gone after that round. You've destroyed their confidence.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to me because as someone who coaches as a hobby, like I'm doing this for fun right now, I get just the satisfaction of a win out of it. Trying to get a team to MDL has been difficult. We've gone through multiple roster changes. We're in advance, which is probably, I mean, it's weird because you have some teams puggy, you have some teams structured, and what your team wants to scrim those advanced teams in quotations, right? The teams that have the strats, they're not puggy, but then we lose to those puggy teams in league matches because we never scrim them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if MDL has that effect of like having multiple play styles and having like not a playbook, but having like a mentality ready for each kind of team you go up against. Because I guess, do you demo watch every team, or is it kind of like you play your game? Yeah.
We just play our game. I think demo watching every team is it would be good if you were going to play them eventually at a LAN, but like I'm not going to demo watch a tag.
Yeah.
Or 46-2.
Yeah.
I think it's an effect that just scrimming has, period, is no matter where you're at, you just want to scrim better teams. Whether you're an advanced team, you want to scrim MDL teams or higher advanced teams, or if you're an MDL, you want to scrim pro teams. If you're a pro team, you want to scrim FaZe and Astralis, you know? I think it's just a never-ending cycle of just wanting to play better teams.
Yeah, and I guess and if you don't like show that level of competence or skill in the first initial scrim, I find like my team is at the point where like we're in that right Skype group. I think we're in that same Skype group as you.
Yeah.
But we're at that point where it's like we'd love to play those teams, but if we make a first appearance and just suck or, you know, drop the ball, we're gonna get blackballed.
Yeah, or if you play a little too puggy, maybe one of your players is having like a really good day, just farming. It's like, oh, now that team thinks we're pugging them and they'll never scrim us again.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've looked too much at our roster. Gone through some changes. In my opinion, again, I'm obviously super biased. We have the best opper in advanced. And we're super blessed to have him on the team, is KMZ. I talked to you about him on LAN, actually, funny enough. The 60 hertz
I
hopper.
remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah, so the 60 hertz hopper, I think he's in the chat. What's up, Zeke? Or he might be going over stuff with the team, I'm not too sure. He's probably being a good boy right now and going over stuff and talking because I'm here.
Wow. Talent player.
Yeah, talented beyond belief. And the one issue, and he knows this, that we've always clashed on is a good balance between pugging, trusting a call, and that middle ground. So like getting him to actually like listen to the IGL, which is easy enough, but to follow through completely. Because he goes into the round with, okay, this is what we're gonna do, but what else can I do on top of that?
Where's my room? Where's my line? Can I cross it?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
Here?
And that's always been an issue I've always had, right? Like I'm blessed to have Spammer, an old 1.6 IGL. Funny enough, I talked to Valens. I think you met him maybe you saw him at WSG America.
Probably saw him.
I was lucky enough to sit down with him, and he actually knew Spammer. So Bilal's been putting in tons of work, and we've got him down from the like, I don't know how to word this because pugging always isn't bad. But
No.
to take a pugger and mold them into a team environment, like I want to get him to the point when he pugs, he's thinking, I want him to get mad, in a sense where like when he does something puggy, I want him to get mad at himself.
Yeah.
So I think we're almost there. We have Nesca, we have Fang, 2 recent additions to the team, and of course Remy and Shoker. I'm happy with who the roster is, but that's been the biggest struggle for us. Is just getting that mentality of trusting a call. And I guess for you guys, it's different because you've been together longer. You guys have that structure in place. Have you ever run into an issue of, well, I guess you've had that Nigel issue recently, huh?
Yeah. No, for sure. Honestly, I don't think we've had a problem with the CNF roster or this roster, but the Paperboy roster was a huge issue where some players didn't respect Paperboy as an IGL, thought he was bad at it. So whenever he would make a call, there would be literal conflict in the middle of the round saying, no, we shouldn't do that. We should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, that lost us a lot of rounds. For sure.
So have you guys come up with like protocols? Like in a sense where if a call is made and it turns bad or is bad, do you just write that down? Because I've run into situations where a call is made and I have my fat notebook in front of me and they start to argue. I'm like, hey, shut up. Like we're mid scrim, and you write the round down and you write down the exact context, what happened, and you talk about it after. Does that always happen for you? Like, does it happen?
I mean, we usually bring it up after,
Mhm.
right? But I don't necessarily, right? Like there's not arguing on this team, which is beautiful.
That's good. Yeah.
Like actually none. The first roster I've ever been on where there's been no arguing, or the first full roster.
Okay.
There's been no arguing because I've been on my whole career. But yeah, it's amazing. Like it just makes everything so much better when there's just apologizing, not critique.
You guys are
You know?
apologizing? You have no Canadians on that roster?
I know it's weird.
That must be weird, yeah.
It's
Especially like
oh, sorry, that was my fault. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. That was my fault. And it's like, oh my god, love it.
and everyone says it's their fault, and at the end of the day it's no one's fault.
It's no one's fault. No, that's where I come in. It was his fault for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Your fault.
That's your stance where you have to be like, actually, you're both kind of wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, having players on your team that are hyper aware makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I definitely should have done that. Oh, that was bad. I shouldn't have planted, or something like that.
So,
Easy job.
I have a controversial question.
Okay.
I saw a tweet that something you guys were looking for a new org. Is that facts?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's facts.
Okay. Are you want to talk about that, or is that
We can.
it's
Yeah.
up to you? Is that something you guys want to talk about? You want to talk about?
I mean, it's all out on Twitter now. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't read a lot of it. I just saw the headline.
Yeah.
I don't know if people in the chat got a chance to read any of it. What's been the motivation behind it? What has gone wrong? I'm obviously every org you sign with, there's that learning experience because you're not going to sign with an org. Everything's going to be great, right? And then you bring that issue to the next org, and then there'll be a new one. It's constant learning thing. So what was the thing for Vireo Pro?
Well, it was actually a great org. I have no complaints with how they ran anything. They always supported us financially,
Mm-hmm.
like never late on payments. It's a great org. And then I don't know the inner details, like the meat of it, but I'll just paraphrase. I think his business partners, Colin's business partners, the owner of Vireo Pro, dipped out on him when the money ran dry and took like their league team away from him. And then he, being 16, got some shit on Twitter and on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
Then couldn't handle the pressure, and he was supposed to step down at one point but didn't, and it just really just all fell apart pretty quickly. And now they're just helping us find an org
Yeah.
to represent us, and that's pretty much it.
There you go. Okay. So I guess without having that funding, and my next question was going to be, what's the next event for you guys? Because obviously being an MDL team, it's all about who you know still in a sense, right? Because even
Yeah.
when I was coaching, or at least managing, I guess at this point, because I didn't know too much about the coaching role, I'm always learning myself. Is kind of like the marketing side of coaching, right? So I had a contact with DreamHack, and I got us a direct invite into the qualifier, right? So
Mm,
that was like that's how that
okay.
works, right? So that's how I did it. I don't. Are you guys? Do you guys get direct invites to any DreamHack qualifiers? So like we skipped the line. We got lucky. But that was back with Polar Ace. I think that
Mm.
was the lineup with Hydrex in them.
I
That's
would
going back.
hope we're getting some direct invites.
Yeah.
Well, we don't do the business savvy stuff. I probably should,
Yeah.
honestly. I should probably do my job a little bit better, or our manager should. Drew.
Yeah. Are you
Drew.
looking stare into the camera?
Drew. Um, no, I think we did get 2 direct invites this year. We got one for WSG,
Yep.
and I think I'm getting some. We got another one, I know. So I think we're starting to perform well and putting up numbers where we are going to start getting them,
Yep.
which is so nice.
Yeah.
So
You
nice.
you skip that whole 128 or 2016 brackets and single
Of 8
elim.
matches that are terrifying that start at 12.
Yep.
Now if your players are waking up at 5 PST,
Yeah.
it's like,
I'm assuming. Like, wait, can I guess at how many players did you say do that?
oh, sorry, I exaggerated. 2,
Okay.
really late.
Can I take a
I don't
guess on
know.
who that would be?
Sure.
Floppy. That's one guess.
Hmm.
Because he plays rank S probably all night or FPL or whatever.
Sure.
So he's probably
What's
doing
number
that.
2?
Wait, is his internet back up, by the way, side note?
Floppies?
Yeah.
Is his internet down?
He sent a tweet saying mom cut the internet. I don't know if he was memeing.
Oh, yeah, it came up like the next one.
Okay. All right, so that's Floppy. Put Alone seems like a very punctual guy.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Poland works 3rd graveyard shift.
Right. So it is Pwn. I'll take that hint and run with it. Good hint. Okay. Yeah, because Stellar seems very punctual. Robbie, because I never see those guys really queuing late at night. Or if they
Yeah.
do, they're good at.
They are
just-
now. I think Poland has like motivated everyone to start making this free money.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's queuing now, at least once or twice a day.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess that's important for the team as a whole too, because it's weird to look at a team, especially when you don't have that org anymore for connections. It's like, okay, well now we have to be our own marketers in a weird sense,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like you have to grind in the team, but you also have to grind outside of the team.
Yeah, and I think we're just trying to keep it away as much as possible, like the team having to deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
because it is stressful. You have to go and message all these people, and Stellar has recently started doing. It's like probably should have just let
Yeah.
not you about it.
I mean, if you guys need the hookup, I got the hookup.
I got you out on Discord.
If you need.
Talk right after this.
Yeah, I can drop the name now. Really, it's not a big thing.
Who?
Mazer Gaming. Now, if you've never heard of this org, they have a Call of Duty team. Their Twitter is Mazer HQ. These guys recently got a Call of Duty professional team in CWL Pro League. So they're in the same bracket as 100 Thieves, Picture Nights, Accelerate, Midnight, Overtime. These guys reached out to us. Now I'm just going to be transparent about it. I don't think they'll care. And they reached out to us, and they didn't offer us, well, salary or anything because we're advanced. They're like, yeah, you can negotiate if you make MDL. But there's one possible little lead ski. Those guys are looking pretty cool dudes. But NACS has always had an issue with orgs. It's like you look at EU and they're drowning, and you look at NA and we're kind of like starving. And I don't know if that's a disconnect from talent or revenue streams. and I haven't been
think
able
it's
to figure it
maybe
out yet.
both.
Yeah.
I think it might be a combination because as far as the whole NA is just way worse than the EU is
Hmm.
slowly but surely fading. I think we're catching up.
Except in
Um,
MDL.
hey, no, Singularity. Singularity did pretty good at the LAN. Okay, they put us in the top four.
True, true. I mean,
NA,
can I rephrase that?
sure.
MDL as a whole.
Oh,
We have good
absolutely.
we have good MDL
Absolutely.
teams, but if you just look at, let's see.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
MDL
That'd be
Europe.
bad.
Let's take a look at their team list.
Oh no.
Vitality, VP, Epsilon, Red Reserve, AGO, Fours, ENT, Sprout, Alternate Attacks, Movie Stars, Team Spirit, LDLC. It's X Fragsters, you know? And
It's stacked.
it's loaded. That's basically half of another pro league. It could be another pro league on itself.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think we're at a weird spot where we have, and it never used to be like this. It used to be the opposite, where we'd have too many leagues, too many events. Now we're at a point where we have too many too many teams and not enough leagues and events.
Yeah.
I don't think we've hit that balance point yet.
And I think something that would help a lot is what Zelsis brought up on Twitter yesterday was talking about adding more smaller tournaments for NA only. And that would just help with money. It would help with credibility. Like, for instance, the only 3 LANs we attended this year was WSG, MDL LAN, and then they played the New Jersey LAN, which the New Jersey LAN was a mid-tier tournament.
I'm assuming you
But-
guys won that.
No, we got
No? Oh.
but yeah, like those tournaments like that would just help with like credibility. Like you're talking to an org and they're like, "What have you done?" Like, "Oh, we've won these 4 $20,000 LANs." It's like, "Oh, okay, they're actually doing something." Instead of going to MDL LAN where you're
Mhm.
placing 6th, 8th against pro tier level teams
Yeah.
from
It-
EU.
It's
And
because
like,
it looks bad on paper,
yeah,
but it's like that is the opportunity for NA teams, which is unfortunate because, as we mentioned earlier, you have these players who have played 1-2 LANs in their careers,
Mhm.
do great online, have the fundamentals, and then it's a completely different swap when you get to LAN. Like, you don't lose that game sense, you don't lose the strategic part, but it is a different beast. So I've been working with someone to try to get more NA events, but they're like, yeah, but we'd rather do online stuff. I'm like, it's like the money's there, but if we had like, I know NSG is gonna start doing more things, so hopefully, I think the way they want to do it, and I hope the way they want to do it is kind of like they have the funding now. I think they just signed I mean, they've always had the funding, but now they have that NFL guy on the NSG lineup. So hopefully they're gonna do kind of like an MDL invite to qualifier, and I don't know. I think you're right in the sense where we need more lands because we have lands in NA, but they're all IEM. They're iBuy Powers. They're inviting 5 or 6 EU teams to like a 12-team event, and that leaves like 3 spots for so they'll invite like 8, let's say, EU teams. And they're like, well, it's an NA event. Damn, we kind of need to invite some NA teams. Shit. Let's invite send out an invite to C9. C9 can say yes or no. It's up to them. But then you only get like those 3 invited NA teams. And they're like, okay, qualifier time. Oh, and by the way, we're doing the same amount of qualifiers for EU as NA. I'm like, well, shit. Like, you know?
yeah, and then there's just almost no way.
Yeah.
Oh well, we can go maybe. We can maybe get there, but getting out of last place is
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like more tournaments. I hope more tournaments happen. Because, I mean, I was looking at your list, and for a team that's been together for pretty much, what, a year? There's not a lot of LAN events for you guys.
no.
So, not a lot of meat on the bones. And I don't think there's an MDL LAN this season.
No,
No.
there won't be. It'll just be more money.
Mm-hmm. Damn, that's kind of unfortunate.
You know, it's okay. More time to build, get better.
Yeah. Yep. More of that fun stuff. And I'm just trying to think, like, EU teams get that funding, they get the team house. So when you guys go to a LAN, it's so different, and I want to get your opinion on this. Different when you get to look your teammates in the eyes and talk about the game in comparison to doing it online.
Yeah, because you know they're completely interested.
Mm-hmm.
They're like you're having a full-on conversation about the game you play and love. Whereas like if you're in TeamSpeak, you don't know if they're like away from the computer. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not responding. Oh, well, I guess he left.
Time to do
Okay.
webcam practices.
Just don't listen to me then. Whereas like you know they're interested and
Mhm.
invested. When you're all grouped around a computer or something, you're having Ben show a strat
Mm-hmm.
to try to do, and it's like everyone is completely on board. And also team practice is so much funner on LAN.
Yeah.
So much.
You get to stand behind the guys, see it live, or how was that? Was that cool?
Oh yeah, shoulder taps. I got to try a whole bunch of different things. WSG was a completely learning experience for me as a
Yeah.
coach. I did test a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, run me through that. What game plan and ideas did you go in with? And kind of what were the end like learning points from that?
Okay, so whenever I did a whole bunch of research on all three teams except for Space Station, which we knew they were terrible.
Yep.
But I had like notes. I had it all noted out on the plane. I was just thinking about how I wanted to coordinate practice and how I wanted to go over all this stuff. And then we get there, and they're scrimming Space Station on LAN because we knew we wouldn't have to play. And I'm just standing behind him, testing out the shoulder taps, the high fives, the fist bumps, what's better, who likes what. And then we go into do the notes review of me talking about how Swole are gonna play and everything. ZNF dips. It's like, okay, well, now we can't do that. And then we just forget about it. We just go home. We go back to the hotel and just eat. Come home, come back next day and get destroyed. That's how it went. I didn't even get to do anything. It's on stage. I didn't even get to fist bump. We didn't win any rounds. How do you fist bump on a loss? You can't.
Yeah, I mean it's like we lost the round. It's like
Here you go,
you're more
dude.
emotionally invested, I guess, obviously, because you're standing behind him, you're seeing everything. Was it hard for you not to want to say something like mid round, knowing the rules? Like you're standing there, or like before, no pause time. Like you had to take a pause to get your voice heard, and trying to like planning the pauses.
I'll be honest. We didn't pause the whole beat.
Yeah, you're right. You didn't.
We just accepted it. Like, I don't know. There was just something about ZNF. Like, all right, you know what? He completely ruined that land for us.
Uh-oh.
Like, completely ruined it. So I think everyone was just out of it. Like, no one really cared for some reason. Like the whole him dipping out of practice and then him coming on the next day sick, where I thought I might have to play, and I don't know. There's just something about it. We were just so out of it. I mean, I think I sat down on the second map. I wasn't standing up. Like, no, there was no comms. There's nothing you can do. I guess I did poorly as a coach. I should have probably paused and said something, but honestly, it would have mattered.
Probably learned a lot from that though.
Yeah, I think it was a really big learning experience for
Yeah.
all of us
And
to
then-
get destroyed on land.
It's a different feeling. You lose
It's
online, you're like,
horrible.
all right, I'm gonna go get some food and like take a nap. You lose at LAN, you're like, you gotta shake their
Everyone
hand.
kind of spreads apart. You're all
Yeah.
talking to different people. Like no one wants to talk to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then was MDL LAN following that, or was that before?
That was falling.
That's following. So how was that experience for you guys? Because that was your second chance at a LAN. Was that with ZNF still?
No.
No,
I
that was
played.
yeah, right. That was without ZNF, and you played. Was that, I guess, kind of was unfortunate that you had to play in that situation? How did that whole experience go? Because now you went from, it's weird. You went from like playing to coaching, then having to play again. Was that must have been weird?
If they would have caught me with this land like 3 weeks before its actual date, I was still been in the grime. I
Mm.
was still been feeling it, but I definitely lost it a little bit. So going into it, I was going to have to IGL, and I'd never IGL before,
Yep.
and that was obviously incredibly, incredibly intimidating. We had just started playing with Ben, so all of our practice was actually looking forward past the MDL LAN. We were playing till Ben until like 2 days up to the event, and then I started playing with the team because we just wanted to focus on the team. We all decided that was more important. There's like no chance of us making pro league. Let's just focus on playing with Ben, and we'll just have Rustin come in and call for 2 days just so we get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the LAN, I mean, lost to the French team first day. It happens. I don't know. I felt like we played really well though.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was something about it where we weren't getting scrapped um by any of the teams. I feel like we played really, really, really well, except for me versus Kingwin. It was a team like collectively, even with like 2 IGLs because I was doing really bad at IGLing and then Stellar and Floppy were all kind of calling with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this super weird dynamic that would not work if we were at home. But since it was LAN, it was like perfect
It was
for
like
some
more of a
reason.
conversation calling type of thing.
Yeah, it just worked perfectly and everything was really fluid. And I think if we got to play again, I think we probably would have beat any team we played.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was just working perfectly.
How was it playing EU teams on LAN? They're crazy, aren't they?
Insane.
Yeah.
Like, insane. Usually you don't notice getting destroyed, but like when you play an EU team, you're like, oh, he killed me again. 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 He shot me again. I can't kill this guy. Like, can we avoid him, please? He has 30 kills in 16 rounds. I don't even think it was possible.
Start going to opposite sides of the map, and then
Yeah,
he's there, and you're like, oh
he's
my
there. They know. We're
god.
terrified.
Yeah. Yeah, that must be like a completely weird feeling because I don't know. It's EU, I guess they have the advantage of just all being close and having that culture mix. Where NA
And
is like
they
NA.
have great practice too. Like
Yeah.
you got to think MDL practice is insane. Like you can play any type of team you want. You can play a super strategical team or a super puggy team, depending on who you play.
Yeah.
And they're all at the highest level, or basically tier 2 EU teams, very high level.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in AMDL, it's like you just want to scrim pro teams. That's in AMDL. You have like 2 or 3 teams you're okay with practicing with, or 4 or 5. I should be gracious. But basically, we're like crying for pro team scrims at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We want to play structured teams. Ugh.
Because I guess you can only get so good against other MDL level teams.
And also, playing the same MDL team over and over again kind of like start subconsciously anti-striding each other.
Yep.
And it kind of ruins the practice.
So I have another question, but there's a question in chat actually. So if chat has any questions, feel free to ask. One of my mods asked, "Do you think you would make if you would have made the call and played in Sit ZNF at WSG? Do you think that would have changed the outcome of the LAN?"
Yes, absolutely. I was
Yeah.
still good then.
Still nuts.
I was still nuts.
Yeah. I guess you don't play as much as obviously you used to. So
Not even close.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of sad. When I go and want to pug now, it's so sad. Like the decrease in skill has been so embarrassing.
does it hurt?
It hurts so
Yeah.
bad. It hurts so bad.
I guess you're at the point now where you're scheduling like your scrims like days in advance too, huh? If you want to get those pro league teams, you have to be like, okay, 2 weeks from now on the Thursday, we'll do a BO3.
I actually talk about.
You don't want to talk about that? Okay, we'll skip.
I don't want to destroy my man.
Oh, it's up to him again. Okay, my bad. Skip. That made me forget my question. No, I remembered it. No, I lost it again. Damn.
Oh.
Well, if you have any more thoughts on coaching, because you're new to it, I'm new to it.
Yeah.
There is a massive learning curve. Do you like it? I guess is a good point. I haven't asked that yet.
I love it. Like there was in the same video I referenced earlier where it was the pro league team coaches talking about what made them hooked coach.
Mm-hmm.
And every time it was like they were on a really important round and they paused and they made a call that absolutely destroyed the other team. won the game. Like I'm reaching out, like striving for that moment because I've had it before as a lurker. I never talked, I never IGL'd,
Hmm.
and then I would pause the game and be like, guys, I know exactly what you're doing. This will work, and then it works, and you win the game. But that feeling is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want that feeling over and over again. So the better I get at coaching, then the more times and more chances I have at doing that, the better I make.
Yeah. It's kind of like getting it's very similar. I've had that feeling once where it was a pistol my team needed to win. And I'm like, "Okay, let's do this." And you're watching, you're like, if this goes wrong, I feel responsible. You get that feeling of burden. You're like, I made this judgment call. It's on me. And I remember I called a B hit on Mirage, but I changed up the pace of what Smokes would throw. And I was like, okay, it's risky, but we're going to throw left, right, get right, and we're going to molly bench instead of van on pistol. And because I watched a couple demos of these guys. And it worked, but they stacked B. They had 3 people there, and I'm like, oh my god, this is not. We started losing the trades, and then you get those 2 players, you get the trade frags. I'm like, oh my god, we won pistol, and I felt great. But at the same time, you're more nervous than what you would be when you're playing. It's a really weird feeling. Yeah,
It's so weird because I mean I'm sure your players don't do this, but like if you were to make a call
hmm
in the middle of a game and it didn't work at all, you got destroyed, they wouldn't like turn around and be like, it was so terrible.
maybe
I don't.
jokingly, but
Yeah, that's the thing. It's really important to have that personal level, like we said before,
mhm,
with your players, so they respect you enough to be like, okay, let's listen to his call. It didn't
mhm,
work. Okay, well, that's okay. IGLs make back calls all the time.
mhm. Yeah, and it's interesting as a coach because your only input is that call. So to keep building
Yeah,
that credibility and giving them like little pushes and just feeding them information, they'll come around to it and being like, okay, that is his input. It's not like he can jump on and touch a mouse and win us the round.
yeah.
Yeah. Dang.
It's really hard.
Yeah. I have a final question, and it is relative to practice. When I met Valens and talked to him for quite a bit of time at WSG America, I've adapted this in a sense where we were talking about Astralis, and I haven't implemented this, but maybe it's something to talk about. Because you mentioned you've IGL'd and you don't mind it, right? You've lurked, but IGLing you could get behind because you're basically an IGL as a coach, but like an offline IGL in a sense. What Astralis does is Glaive will not call during practice, and Zonic will call 90% of the time.
Yep, I've heard this.
You've heard this, yeah. So Glaive fully focuses on his fragging potential. He remembers the calls, and the team knows the calls because God knows how many protocols they have against whatever teams they play. These guys are on the next page when it comes to coaching and playing. I haven't implemented that. I wanted to try it, but I feel like you have to be on such a page where everyone is just trusting the call and treating it like it's Glaive. And I don't know if you've wanted to try this or have considered it.
I have. I've actually thought about this for a whole night trying to sleep. And I don't think it would work because for most teams, I don't think it would work for almost any team. Unless you can mimic, as the coach, you can mimic your IGL's calling style.
Yeah.
I think that's super important so it doesn't change anything. Because if you are practicing and your coach's IGLing is different in the way he calls, maybe he calls more puggy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
than your IGL who's more of a tactician likes to call like really tactical strats. And your team can actually kind of get lost in the transition between the two. And I think really mess up how they play and what they're used to. So if you're able to like mimic your IGL's calling style and the style he likes to call, I think it could work perfectly fine. I just don't think I can.
Yeah.
Ben has such a unique way of calling. I don't think I could ever call like him. So I don't think it would work.
Yeah. I'm just happy I'm not the only one who thought about it. Like I have also sat down and like written out the entire thought plan.
Yeah.
And been like the one issue I came down to was I'm not calling in the important games. It's like how would that transition, right?
Exactly. Are they used to your voice now?
Yeah.
Because we're calling in practice.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah. It's such a great idea though. Like it would work. It's just such a great idea. Having your IGL focus strictly on fragging in
Mhm.
his self.
And that's the only role that changes too. It's
Yeah,
just he
that's
just
it,
doesn't talk, but he does the same thing.
which is insane.
And I guess the amount of time though those guys must put into it, like they practice probably 10 hours a day,
Also,
like
Glavis has
just
been on the team for how long though?
long enough that
With the
Zonic
same,
might be his brother. I don't know,
yeah.
like stupid amounts of time. Yeah. One final point is what Valens told me is, and this was a big point of advice to me because when it comes to coaching, it's not like there's not a lot of information on how to do it right or what you're
No.
doing wrong. It's not like traditional sports. It's very different in that every team's unique, every player's unique, as we talked about earlier, and it's you have to be flexible to every player, but also the whole team as a whole and look at the outlook of it. One thing we've started to implement on my team is like straight strats run out of spawn are only run offline. Like we'll go into a practice and we're not gonna like do it consistently, right? Like we know our routes, we know our smokes, we know the situation they're good for. What we do is we treat every scrim more like a loose, like we treat a match, right? So what we do is we'll go into a scrim and we'll do the same dry run for 40 minutes, practice different timings of it, practice different control before doing it. So we have different variations, and then in scrims, we'll implement it differently based on the how the other team's playing. So basically, we play more reactive,
Sure.
where then we dry run strats strictly. Like we won't go and be like, "Okay, we're gonna dry run the same strat 4 times, same time, same pace on buy rounds." Kind of an idea. I don't know if I don't know. Again, it's being flexible as a coach, which has been the most difficult thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to coach it,
Mm-hmm.
except MC. But I think I just think you have to talk to your players and like figure out what exactly they need
Mm-hmm.
and how practice should. I think practice could be even different too. I don't think there's any one good way to practice. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple bad ways, but that's why it's hard to talk about like what you should be doing in practice or what I think is best in practice or how you should run strats or call in practice. There's just so many different ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The ours is pretty basic, to be honest. Like just go over, we dry run a few times, talk about routes like you did, then we go and try it. If it doesn't work, we talk about it. Why didn't it work? We do super simple stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think simple is better. One big issue I've been running into with the team, and I don't know if this is an experience-based thing or it's always going to be a problem, is clear communication. And I never really noticed this as playing, again, at lower tier. But as soon as you start listening to 5 players communicate in a server, you start to notice, damn, there's a lot of useless shit being said.
Mm,
And a lot of
yeah.
it's easier said than done. And I guess this is where coaches have a problem trying to get their players to understand this is it's easier said than done to tell your players, hey, man, just calm less. It's, well, keep calming, but calm the essential things. Like, I feel like I want to get the team to a point where crossfires are set up naturally and we go over these because they'll talk at the beginning of the round for 30 seconds, right, about the setups they want to do, this and that. And I'm trying to get to the point where clear, precise comms and the tone in which they call is a big thing to me because humans' language is native based on tone. So if they're like 3B or if they're like, one B, like it's based on like the
Yeah.
tone and how they call. Too. I don't know. I don't know if you've had ever any issues on comms or anything like that, but
Not this particular cluster.
mm-hmm.
Like Robbie doesn't talk too much. Stellar doesn't talk too much. You know, you haven't been doing most of the communicating, and everyone's calling. Well, our comms are actually probably the best thing about us.
didn't take much work. Everyone just kind of, I guess once
Yeah.
you get everyone down to the roles, it's kind of easier to work on.
I mean, Stellar and Floppy are extremely experienced, and so is Ben. So, you know, they know exactly when they should talk and shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Put on so many different rosters. And then Robbie's just a naturally quiet person, even though he's young, inexperienced, or trying to gain his experience. So yeah, he doesn't talk too much, and then Punalon only calls when he needs to call. So it's actually perfect.
Yeah.
I usually fill in the gap. You know, Robbie isn't talking too much today. call for him or something.
Yeah.
In scrims, so it's
Okay.
actually.
So I guess to wrap this up, what are your 3 points, I guess, or 3 things as a team you guys want to work on going forward, and how are you going to fit yourself into these points to make you guys the best MDL team, which I think you can be. It's going to be hard to beat the Luminosity. It's going to be hard to beat that Luminosity. It's going to be hard to get to that Furia Team 1 because, of course, they have the advantage of team houses, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to help you guys get to that point?
Okay. 1, extremely perfect practice.
No time waste.
Right. Should I be realistic here?
Yes.
Okay. Really good, reasonable practice. And more practice on top of that. That's point number 1. Where we just really just need more scrims and better practice, which I think we do okay with now. And as far as I'm concerned with that, I mean, as a coach always is, in practice I should be leading conversation always. It's something I need to work on in practice more. I need to lead the conversation, not anyone else. Point number 2, I think we just need to play more together. I think we need to play differently. I think we need to play more diverse. For instance, if we are playing a team again on another map, let's play completely different. Let's change up spots. Let's, if you've been playing on Cat Mirage almost every round, why don't you just play Sight this scrim and stuff like that? As a coach, how I can implement that is I need to say that. Like, just really need to. And a third point, how can we get better? Just keep playing the way.
Yeah.
Playing great CS.
Well, there you go. And I guess to close this out, if you want to give any shout outs or give a summary of your points of how you look at how you want to improve, because of course this comes down to you and coaching and your implementation. So I guess I'll give you the floor if you want to give any final things.
All right, this is the final thing. We need to start a coach union. We all need to share ideas. Okay, all need to help each other, have each other's backs. Right. I want to be able to message Valens. I want to message I'm a pet. Be like, yo, listen, dog. I'm struggling. I feel lost. Need your help. Help a brother out. Okay, that's it.
All right.
Also, I love everybody on my team.
There you go.
Sponsor us, please. We need money.
Well, you heard it here, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on the first episode of the Coaching Side. Hope you guys enjoyed. This will be up on the YouTube, so shout out to the YouTubers. And thank you so much, everyone, on the Twitch chat for tuning in, twitch.tv/Seaside. And, of course, thank you to our lovely guest for joining me, Rustin. I really appreciate your insight, and I wish you the best of luck on this MDL season. Thank you so much, guys. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I love you too, man. All right. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you next time on the Coaching Side. Take care.
Almost looks Skadul had come out on top there. What a flick coming in, shot.